Hello everyone, and welcome to Retro Brick Reviews, where today I am very excited to be bringing you my analysis video on all 8 LEGO Harry Potter Summer 2021 20th Anniversary sets. All of these sets are set to release worldwide on June 1st, 2021 from LEGO and selected retailers, and will have a wide retail release, again, worldwide, on August 1st, 2021. And I'm just super excited to get into these sets, so without any more further ado, let's begin. The 8 sets we'll be taking a look at in this video are the Hogwarts Chamber of Secrets, Hogwarts Polyjuice Potion Mistake, Hogwarts Fluffy Encounter, Hogwarts First Flying Lesson, Hogsmeade Village Visit, Hogwarts Wizard's Chess, Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, and Fox, Dumbledore's Phoenix. And before we continue into looking at the sets individually, there are just a few points I'd like to go over that relate to several of these sets. Of the 8 sets coming in this wave, 6 of them are specifically marked as 20th anniversary sets, and each of those 6 sets will contain one special golden Harry Potter minifigure. Those characters that get golden figures being Harry Potter, Hermione Granger, Ron Weasley, Lord Voldemort, Severus Snape, and Quirinus Quirrell. Now, we'll go over which sets they come from and the specific details of each figure later on in the video, but for right now, if you think there are some characters missing, don't worry, because it has been confirmed that there will be more golden Harry Potter minifigures coming later this year. It is not known which characters they will be or exactly how they will be released, but at the very least, this is not the full collection, so stay tuned for that. In addition to the golden figures, each of those 6 anniversary sets will also include an amount of randomly chosen Chocolate Frog card 2x2 tiles. Depending on the size of the set, each one will include somewhere from 2 to 6 Chocolate Frog cards, and as prior mentioned, those will be selected randomly out of a total pool of 16 different designs. And throughout all of the sets, there will be 19 cards in total, which does unfortunately mean that you do not have fantastic chances of getting all 16 when you buy all 6 sets, which is quite unfortunate. There is a poly bag that will be coming later this year, and hopefully that will include 1 or 2 cards, so at the very least, if you don't get all 6 from buying the sets, you would just have to buy extra copies of the poly bag to try again, rather than the current alternative, which is, if you miss out on any, you just have to keep buying the $20 set until you get them all, which is not fantastic. So, yeah, currently, the way they're doing this gimmick, it's a good idea. I just hope that it doesn't become too hard to pick up the extra cards that you missed out on. And finally, if you don't know, this year, LEGO is introducing a brand new Hogwarts system that is more modular than what we've had in previous years, where, in addition to being able to connect side by side using Technic pins, these sets will also be able to stack vertically using modular sections that are on 8x8 and 16x8 plates. Much in the same style as how they did it back with the original 2001 and 2002 castle. Here you can see a setup of what some of these sets look like together, and I think they look quite nice. Another important thing to mention is that despite popular belief and the false information that I've seen going around quite a lot the last couple days, these sets are fully compatible with all of the Hogwarts expansions released from 2018 to 2020. The pins on the sides are in the exact same arrangements at the exact same heights, so if you desire, you can add these sets to your pre-existing Hogwarts setup that you have from prior sets. The only real point of contention there is the sand green roofs, which, for one, the Hogwarts Astronomy Tower last year introduced a lot of sand green into the roofs, likely in an attempt to create a smoother transition from the gray roofs of the previous sets to the sand green of the anniversary sets. But also, I mean, if it bothers you that much, I checked, it would only cost about $6 to replace all of the roofs with dark gray if it bothers you that much. So, I mean, if you really hate this design, the roofs still really shouldn't ruin the whole set for you, but I personally love these new roofs. I much prefer the sand green over the dark bluish gray. Yeah, but enough about the system. Let's start taking a look at the sets themselves. Starting with the main flagship set of this wave, set number 76389, the Hogwarts Chamber of Secrets. This set includes 1,176 pieces, 11 minifigures, plus several different magical creatures, and it'll cost about $130 in the United States. That's about 130 Great British Pounds, 140 Euros, or 230 Australian dollars. And in the United Kingdom, this set is currently up for pre-order right now, as we speak. And it is a very large set, as you can see. It includes 6 wizard cards, and it includes the Golden Voldemort minifigure. Taking a look at everything included, you can see that you get 3 modules in terms of lengthways, where you have the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets, which stands on its own. You have the Hogwarts Great Hall, which goes above the main face of the Chamber of Secrets. And then you have the tower off to the right, which goes above the slide down into the chamber. And then out in front, you of course have all of the different minifigures, side builds, creatures, etc. Going in for a better look at the exterior, you can see that the entrance to the chamber is not too large, but I think it is well detailed for what it is. I think the transparent green adds a nice touch, and the Ninjago snake pieces used on the door definitely give off the correct look, and it just looks great. I'm a big fan of that side build. As for the Great Hall, it is definitely a much smaller design than what we had in 2018. In fact, it looks to be pretty much the same size as the 2010 Great Hall, interestingly enough. And I've heard some people give it a lot of flack, both because it is only 3 years since that last set, and because this is definitely lower on detail and overall size. But personally, I really enjoy the look of this Great Hall. For one, it's proportionally accurate, unlike the 2018 one, which did not have enough height compared to its excessive length. But also, I just prefer the sand green, as mentioned. I like the big tower in the center. Yeah, I really like this. And of course, it also comes over the nice rocky base. As for the tower at the right, it is not meant to represent any specific section of the castle, so that isn't the grand staircase tower. And how it's done is you have at the bottom, you have an 8x16 base, which is half rocky and half castle, which is an interesting look, and I like it because you can kind of imagine that this is at the edge of a cliff. So since the cliff is going down, they had to build castle inside of the empty space. That's nice. Then above that, you have an 8x16 module. Above that is 2 8x8 modules, one just with the top of the tower, we're on the right, and another with another floor. On top of that is one more 8x8 module, which has the sand green conical tower top. Going around to the inside, we'll take a closer look at each section momentarily, but I think this makes for a fantastic playset just looking at everything all together. Definitely the best interior we've ever had for a Hogwarts Castle set, in my opinion. Where on the left, you have the Great Hall, and on the right, you have Professor Lockhart's Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, his office, and an astronomy room. And that all goes above the very nice new Chamber of Secrets. Starting off by looking at the Great Hall section, you can see that at the bottom, you have the face of Salazar Slytherin, which is primarily brick-built, though you do have some stickers to give him eyes. And you can actually slide the basilisk through the statue and out through his mouth, just as is seen in the movie. Moving up to the hall itself, while it is definitely smaller than the 2018 version, I still think it looks very nice, and in fact, this is my preferred version, because while it doesn't have as much space inside, it has a much more homey look, with the dark tan floor and the brown pieces holding up the roof, almost giving a rustic wooden vibe for those, as opposed to the 2018 set, which had dark bluish-gray floors and black Technic in the roof, which definitely didn't look nearly as nice. You can see that you have two tables. The one in the front has a couple of boxes of cereal, those being Owl O's and Pixie Puffs, as well as some other breakfast items. The other table, we'll see in a minute, has a play feature incorporated, and then at the back of the hall you have Dumbledore's lectern, complete with the flying owl piece from last year's sets cast in pearl gold. Then you have several candles all over the Great Hall, and then up top you have a hanging banner, which can actually fold up to reveal the sorting hat. And then up top you also just have a bunch of little items, including a bottle of dried leaves for potion making printed on a minifigure head. We'll get a better look at that piece later on, as well as a jeweled ring, a chessboard at the left, and then right next to the center you actually have a crystal ball, which is a nice reference to where one was included in the 2001 set. Taking a closer look inside of the interior, you can see that the table in the back that I mentioned earlier is actually made for the dueling club scene, where half of it can be knocked back to launch a figure off of the table as if they've just been jinxed. And the set also comes with a little snake to help you complete that scene. And fun fact, this was actually a play feature that was originally going to appear in the 2018 Great Hall, before it was ultimately removed in favor of just having a completely dollhouse detailed style rather than having any concrete play functions. I really like this way, though, and I think this Great Hall looks really nice. It's still definitely large enough to play in and reenact scenes from the movies, and yes, I just love how this is done. My favorite LEGO Great Hall to date. Even if it is an unpopular opinion, I think LEGO has really outdone themselves with this one. Moving on to the tower, it is a bit hard to see all of the interior space, but luckily we have quite a few close-up images from LEGO. So up at the very top, you have the astronomy room, and much like the original 2001 castle, it's designed so that the main roof can be removed to allow you to see out with your telescope. And you also have a little astronomy chart off to the side, where at the bottom, you have a LEGO sextant, and then at the top right, if you're a big fan of Bionicle, well, there's a nice mask as an Easter egg, in the form of a constellation. Next up, you can see from the outside that a nice play feature they've included here is that there is a little transparent bar piece that you can use to attach minifigures to make it look like they're flying through the sky. Be it on broomstick, be it by virtue of being a ghost in Nearly Headless Nick's case, or perhaps even being carried off by pixies. So that's a really nice thing for them to include. It's something I wish they'd had in the prior sets, and having it here definitely just adds that extra nice touch for both display and play. And finally, a layer down, you have the office of Gilderoy Lockhart, which is my favorite interior section in this tower, where you have his nice ornate desk, which has his extra wig on it, as well as a stack of signed photos. And in the back, you just have 4 more photos of himself. It definitely is a great look, and it's just a really nice room. One thing I will note with these modulars, with this room being the one exception, is that all of the 8x8 modules throughout all of these sets are not on standard 8x8 plates, but rather they're on the 8x8 plates that are designed with a graded texture, so that the only actual studs are the ones around the edge and a 2x2 square in the center. And again, Lockhart's office is the only room that is designed with a normal 8x8 plate, and I don't know why that is, because it would look, not only does having a full plate look better, but it's also better for play, because you have much more room to put figures and accessories. So I have no idea why they made that decision for most of these modules, and with this one, they obviously made it be so that you could fit in his desk and his chair, but it's still just a weird and disappointing choice that they did not use normal plates for every other module. So that's pretty odd, in my opinion. Moving down, we don't have any more close-up images, but at the very least, we can get a better look here, since LEGO provided a nice image of the bottom 2 floors to show off that play feature with the slide into the chamber. And down there, you just have a couple of bones, as well as a skeletal frog. And later on, I'll show off how you can get Harry to slide down into the chamber. As for the room above, it is Lockhart's Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, and this is definitely a much better design of defense classroom than what we got in the Hogwarts Clock Tower in 2019. You have a massive portrait of Lockhart in the back, which I think is great. 2 different desks. At the front, you have a skull, and then in the back, if you look closely, there is actually a brand new piece for a candelabra. Interesting to see that surfacing here. If I had to guess, that was designed for Beauty and the Beast in the Disney line for Luminaire, but I guess this is the first set we're seeing it in. So that's interesting, and a great new piece to have in reddish-brown in this case. And there is also a little potion bottle in front of that, and a pink frog on the desk. And here you can see how this separates into just a ton of different modules, where the entrance to the chamber, again, is just one piece. But then the tower, as I mentioned, is 2 8x16s, and then several 8x8s, with the removable cone at the top. The Great Hall is 2 8x24 modules, one for the chamber and one for the hall itself, and the roof of the hall is 3 8x8 pieces. You can also see how each section has one removable rock face. The one in the tower allows you access to the slide to have a figure slide into the chamber, and removing the one under the Great Hall is what opens both the entrance for the basilisk to slide through from the exterior, and it also removes part of the statue of Slytherin's chin, which allows it to fit through on that end. So it is definitely nice with that you do have the option to have everything closed up and fully accurate, or the option to remove that and have the play feature of sliding the basilisk through. I love that, and yeah, just a very good design for the castle, in my opinion. Now, onto the creatures and figures. First off, we have the brand new basilisk, which is such a massive upgrade over the one we had in 2018, and we all know how bad that one was. This is a really great take two, I guess. You have a new molded head, which looks really nice, which transitions into a brick-built neck, using some of those new curved tube pieces. The body is fully brick-built, and I think it looks good enough. I'm just not too sure about the two different colors of tan. I think they should have stuck with one or the other, and I think that light tan was the way to go. That said, I do really like the use of the tooth pieces as scales. That's a smart way of getting that detail in without having to use prints or stickers. And then the tail is nicely done as well. Just a great new design for the basilisk. Definitely redemption for the abomination that they put out in 2018. Now, onto the minifigures. There are 10 shown off here, plus one we'll see in a minute. And from left to right, top to bottom, we have Tom Riddle, Nearly Headless Nick, Ginny Weasley, Harry Potter, Justin Finch Fletchley, Gilderoy Lockhart, Luna Lovegood, Colin Creevey, Albus Dumbledore, and Professor Sinistra, plus various accessories like a snake, 2 Cornish pixies, the Sorting Hat, and a statue. Now, taking a look at everything in a bit more detail, Tom is entirely different from his appearance last year in the Magical Treasury book, and I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of it. The face print, one side has this somewhat confused look, while the other side is very aggressive. The torso and legs definitely add a lot more color variation with the dark gray jumper and light gray pants. And while the torso I at least understand, the legs I think just look awful. They should have stuck with black. And he also gets a new design for his diary, using a sticker for the cover. Though, thankfully, at least the sticker makes sense, unlike the version of the diary we got in Harry Potter Minifigure Series 2, which had the clasps on the inside, not on the outside. Next is Nearly Headless Nick, who is seemingly identical in terms of prints to the 2018 figure, except now he is entirely glow-in-the-dark, which is a very cool feature to have. I think it looks... Definitely the all-white figure is interesting. I'm curious to see how he looks when he's glowing. And it's also a nice callback, I think, to how the Severus Snape minifigure in 2001 was the first ever minifigure to have a glow-in-the-dark head. I might be stretching there, but those are just kind of the vibes I get. Next up, Ginny is pretty lame in that she still has the same generic young girl head print from Diagon Alley, nothing new here, but her torso at least is exciting since it's a new design for Gryffindor robes. This print comes in several of the sets, in fact you even get a second copy in this set, and I think it's a nice design to have, and it matches up with the Slytherin robes that appeared in Diagon Alley last year. Here you can also get a better look at that bottle of dried leaves used for potions. That's a nice print. It's just that it's kind of odd that Ginny's accessory gets a new head print, but Ginny herself does not. I gladly would have traded that jar of leaves for getting an accurate young Bonnie Wright head print to use for Ginny here. Harry, much like Ginny, has a new robe torso print, this time with the robes being open over his jumper, looking very similar to the design that was in the Harry Potter minifigure Series 1, but it is slightly different, and yeah, great variation to have, good figure. Next up, very excitingly, is Justin Finch Fletchley. The head print is a generic design, but the torso gives us Hufflepuff robes for the first time, which is great. You can also see that he has, as an accessory, a new design for a barn owl that is on a dark tan base with some great white and tan printing. And you can also see swirling above him, the set includes 2 newly molded Cornish pixies. Those are molded in transparent blue and have some nice face printing. Next up is Gilderoy Lockhart, using his same face print from Diagon Alley, which I really like. And his torso is almost the same exact print design from Diagon Alley, except in that set it was on Lilac, and in this set it is on Nougat. I will say that it is weird that he doesn't get a cape, both because he did wear one in the scene, and honestly, more importantly, just because it's Lockhart. Lockhart should have a cape. So that's definitely a weird missed opportunity. Then you get the sorting hat, and then Luna Lovegood is a weird choice. She isn't in this movie, rather, and also she uses the same exact face print as Ginny. That's not great, but hey, Ravenclaw robes, meaning that now we have robes for all 4 Hogwarts houses, which is very exciting. Colin Creevey is the student they definitely put the most budget into because he gets a brand new face print and a brand new recolor for the Han Solo hairpiece. Medium Nougat's an interesting choice, since it seems more inspired by the film-only character of Nigel Wolpert than Colin. If you don't know who Nigel is, he's the kid in films 4, 5, and 6 who acts like Colin Creevey and kind of looks like Colin Creevey, but isn't. So, interesting mashup there between the 2 characters. Dumbledore is great because his face print seems to be a reuse from the Harry Potter minifigure series 2 last year, as is his beard. However, he gets the 2018 Dumbledore hairpiece in white for the first time, and most excitingly, as a callback to the original purple and pink Dumbledore figures, this Dumbledore has his robes in a nice magenta color. That looks really fantastic. Our last minifigure here is Professor Sinistra, who is an exceptionally detailed figure for someone who is essentially a background character and has no lines to her name. She gets a brand new recolor of the McGonagall hat-hair combo introduced earlier this year, a new face print, which I do not know if it's double-sided. If it is, then I'll be really miffed, because they could have done a reuse of an existing head for her and given a new one to Ginny. Honestly, I'll be miffed about that, even if it's just single-sided. But then you have some truly brilliant torso and dress printing, and it just looks fantastic. Definitely a lot of detail to go into such a minor character, but hey, on the other hand, this might be the only figure of Professor Sinistra ever released, so it's a good thing that they did put so much detail into it. And then at the right, you can see that you also have one of the serpent statues in the Chamber of Secrets. The set includes 2, and those heads are actually Ninjago Pyro Viper headpieces from the Ninjago Summer 2019 sets, just recolored into light bluish gray with transparent green accents. Perhaps not the most accurate design to what we see in the movie, but I think it's a really good choice, and it just looks really great. You can also see that this set includes the golden Voldemort figure, and I think it looks pretty nice, where you have the robes printed on the torso and dress piece with the sparkles added on top, a fairly accurate face print, and of course a golden wand. Comparing this to the 2018 minifigure series Voldemort figure, which is what it's based on, you can see that the face print, torso, and dress all seem to have the exact same designs as that figure, just obviously with the colors switched, and the torso and dress have the sparkles added onto them. This is somewhat interesting, since all of the other golden figures have multiple changes up from how they appear as a normal character, Voldy here is the exact same. It's also interesting for two more reasons. One, because they went with the 2018 figure rather than the more recent 2019 Goblet of Fire-based Voldemort figure. And thirdly, because it's also interesting because all of the other golden figures are based around Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone and characters that appeared in the original 2001 sets based on that film, whereas this is Voldemort based on Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. It's an odd choice, but one that I honestly like, if just because it's cool that this set includes both the past and future versions of Voldemort, at least as of the time Chamber of Secrets occurred, in one set, which is pretty cool. Comparing this to the original sets, it's kind of interesting because, of course, the idea of having the Great Hall and the Chamber of Secrets is one that was prevalent in the original line, just in two different sets, where if you bought both of them, they stacked. So you can see from the exterior that the original design was extremely tall, but obviously the new one looks a lot better from the castle exterior. The old castle was very hollow, and while it definitely has its charm, yeah, it doesn't hold up. You can also see that the original Hogwarts Castle set included the boathouse, and the entrance to the chamber in this set clearly takes its place. So that's an interesting choice, and one I definitely like and agree with. From the interior, you can see that the Great Hall interior is actually quite similar. While Dumbledore didn't get his lectern, he does have a nice chair at the front with a table, and while the new set includes two tables, the original included one table and one bench, but in the same configuration. You also have the single hanging banner up at the top. As for the tower, there really aren't any similarities aside from the aforementioned astronomy room, which is cut off in this picture. And then the chamber itself, I mean, you have the head that the basilisk can slither through, but it is a very different design overall, and I much prefer the version that we have in 2021. It's just so much more refined, so much more detailed. The play features work much better than the ones in the 2001 and 2002 sets. Though that said, I do like how the original included a knight statue. That's something that would have been cool to have here. But that's just a minor thing and not really relevant, and the set already includes so many minifigures that I don't think I have any right to complain. Lastly, comparing the two basilisks, the old one is definitely a lot longer. However, you can see that the neck of the new one, the shaping of it, is clearly inspired by the old one, as well as the body, both in terms of size, and having the 2x4 studs sticking up definitely gives off the same vibes. The new one is definitely more proportionally accurate and accurate overall. However, I really liked how on the original the teeth could be removed to use as weapons, as is seen in the movie. That's a feature that isn't on the new one for the purposes of scaling, but it still would have been cool to see them work in something with that. So, that's the Hogwarts Chamber of Secrets set. Overall, it is a fantastic new LEGO Hogwarts set. In my opinion, it is easily the best minifigure-scaled Hogwarts set ever released. For me, it is definitely going to be a day one buy, despite the somewhat steep price tag. And, yeah, just a gorgeous set that's going to be so fun to have and looks great on the inside and the outside. Super excited for this one. Next up is set number 76386, the Hogwarts Polyjuice Potion Mistake. This set includes 217 pieces, 4 minifigures, and it retails for $20 in the US. That's 18 Great British Pounds, 20 Euro, or 33 Australian dollars. And I think this set looks really nice. It includes 2 chocolate frog cards, as well as the golden Harry Potter minifigure. And just looking at everything included, the build is a single 8x16 module of Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. And then you also get some side builds for potion making, as well as the 3 figures, each of which comes with an alternate headpiece to allow you to swap them into their polyjuiced alternate forms. Looking at the build, you have the main sink area, which is very well done, where you have 3 different sinks, the different mirrors, which use actually mirrored stickers, and you have the golden faucets. It's just a very good and very accurate build to what's seen in the movie. You also have a single toilet stall, which has a nice little build for a toilet. Nothing too special, though. And then you just have a couple of little bottles for potion, as well as a single cup and a cauldron. I wish they could have expanded on that to some extent, probably using the larger, older cauldron piece, in addition to including more than just one of the actual cups of polyjuice potion. You really should have 3 to properly complete the scene. One more little detail to notice is that you can see that while normally the set has a full rectangular rim going around the top, in this one you can actually detach the one side of that faces that's at the edge of the interior at the back, which allows you better access. That's nice. And here you can see what that piece looks like when it's inserted in, as well as the main play feature of the set outside of the minifigures that we'll take a look at momentarily, which is that the sink can swing open to reveal the entrance into the Chamber of Secrets. So what's really great about this is that if you have this set and the Chamber of Secrets, rather than doing what's built into that set and removing the one rock face to gain access to the slide, instead, you could place this module over top of the chamber module, and then you could just drop a figure down through the sink directly into the slide. And then they'll slide down into the chamber. That's really cool. It's a fantastic feature to have, and I don't really mind that in this set, opening the sink is completely pointless, because that's not the point of this scene. The point of this scene is the polyjuice potion, and as we're about to see, LEGO replicated that part of it with that feature with the figures fantastically well. But one more thing to show that LEGO, funnily enough, does not show anywhere on the box or in any of the pictures, so I had to go to the little 360 video they had on the website and just take a screenshot at the perfect time. But this is what the exterior of this module looks like. Very simple, with just a single built-in window that doesn't even lead to anything, as well as a couple of windows using large panel pieces. And I think the exterior looks good enough. It's not fantastic, but I like the little mix-ins of the nougat color. And yeah, I think it looks pretty nice. As for the minifigures, you of course have, from left to right, Hermione, Ron, and Harry. All of them are in Slytherin robes, which is very exciting to be able to get 3 Slytherin robes for $20. Previously, you just got this same design in the $400 Diagon Alley. You got one of them, and then you got one of a different design in the $100 Astronomy Tower. So 3 in a $20 set is really fantastic. You can see that Hermione uses the same head print she's had since 2018, whereas Harry and Ron have new face prints on these sides that are exclusive to this set. That's, of course, because they will have alternate faces to transform into Crabbe and Goyle. But as for these designs, Harry has a somewhat inquisitive look, which I like, and Ron has this very freaked out face that I really enjoy. That's such a goofy expression, and I just love it. As for the transformations, here you can see those, where Harry can turn into Goyle, Ron can turn into Crabbe, and most excitingly, and for the first time ever in a LEGO Harry Potter set, Hermione can turn into a cat. Specifically with these transformations, I think that Harry as Goyle is my least favorite. I think the hairpiece is a good choice, but the face, it should have more of a confused look to it, in my opinion, and also something with the cheeks. This just doesn't really look like the actor who played Goyle, in my opinion. As for Crabbe, I think the face print here is quite well done. Maybe the cheeks could have even been a little more exaggerated, but I think it's pretty good. And then the hairpiece, though, is not the best choice. I think that using Dean Thomas's hair from the first minifigure series would have worked a lot better. As for Cat Hermione, I really like that new piece they've made for the head. That is not a new headpiece, though. That is actually just a headgear piece that slips over the minifigure head, which makes a quicker transition from one to the other. And, yeah, I really like the shaping. It has some good prints. I will say that I had originally wished that they would have instead just done a Hermione hairpiece with ears molded in and just had the cat face be printed, but looking at how they've done it, I really like this figure. One thing that is missing is the tail, but that was just omitted because if she had a tail, she wouldn't be able to fit into the bathroom stall. So, definitely a bit of a sacrifice, but an understandable one. This set's golden figure, as prior mentioned, is Golden Harry, who looks quite nice, in my opinion. No real issues with him. And comparing him to the figure he's based on, which is the 2021 Hogwarts Moments Harry, you can see that the face print is slightly different, because the one in the normal figure has a slightly lopsided smile, whereas this one is perfectly centered. And then for the torso, it is very similar, just they removed the one crease off to the right, and then the badge is changed up to be slightly more detailed. In the Moment set, it's just a shield, but in this version, it is actually the same design they apply to all of the robe printings. I definitely prefer this look. So, great figure. In terms of this set being a remake, there are kind of two angles to look at it from. First is Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, where in 2002 it came in the Chamber of Secrets set, and it was literally a tiled floor with a single faucet. Yeah, okay, the real set that this is a remake of is the Slytherin set from 2002, because while these are based on different parts of the scene, they are still under the basic idea of the Polyjuice Potion with Harry and Ron turning into Goyle and Crabbe. The builds are, of course, very different because they're two different scenes, although interestingly, both are built on 8x16 plates. So that's an interesting similarity. There isn't really much you can compare here, aside from, I guess, the potions area, where I have to say that I actually prefer the 2002 one. Even if it is still very small, it just feels more complete, because you get this one side build with everything on it. In this one, you just get a cauldron, 2 bottles, and a cup, and they're all just sitting loose. So, yeah. Obviously, the new set is a lot better in terms of the figures and the overall build quality, but just an interesting thing to observe. So overall, that is the Polyjuice Potion Mistake. A really fantastic set, but for the minifigures in particular, but the build is also quite nice and a great addition to your castle, and I mean, even if you're not getting any of the larger castle sets, this is still a really nice little playset based on the movie. And for me, it's definitely a day one purchase, and I highly recommend it. It is just a fantastic set. Next up is set number 76387, the Hogwarts Fluffy Encounter. This set includes 397 pieces, 4 minifigures, and it retails for about $40 in the United States. That's about 35 Great British pounds, 40 euro, or 70 Australian dollars. This set includes 2 chocolate frog cards and the golden Hermione minifigure. And looking at everything included, you get a fairly bland-looking Hogwarts section. as well as a brick-built Fluffy, and a small harp side build. Taking a look at Fluffy, you can see that he is a very chunky boy, and I'm not really sure how much I like him. The legs in particular are very thick, the upper body is very thick, the heads are new molds, which is nice, somewhat, because the unfortunate part, or well, at least I think it's unfortunate, you might like it, but how they design Fluffy is that when you turn him around, he is asleep, and at first you might think that they included 6 heads, 3 angry and 3 sleeping, but instead what they did is Fluffy's head all the way at the right, our left, is angry, the head all the way at his left is fully asleep, and the head in the middle, the one side is angry and the one side is asleep. So they did it just so that depending on which side you look at him from, you can either look at him from the one side and have him awake and angry, or look at him from the other side and he's asleep. Which is a cute idea. I just think that it doesn't really work in execution, because when you see Fluffy in the movie, it's always from head on with all 3 of his heads. And that's something you can't do with this figure. So it's not great for display, and not to mention that it pretty much ruins play value, since you can't really attack with him, since he looks weird when you're looking at him from the front. You have to pick a side. So yeah, just not a huge fan of how they've done Fluffy here, to be honest. Also, you have the gross light bluish-gray pieces at the top, but those are color-locked and are never going to change. So that's not a huge deal, just in addition to everything else, it certainly doesn't help. And here you can really see what Fluffy looks like from the front, just ick. As for the main build, as mentioned, it's pretty bland. On the left, you have an 8x16 gallery section that is primarily built up just using 3 prefab panel pieces. And then at the right, you have a 3-story tower, where at the bottom you have some rock details, then a balcony, and then the main cone up at the top. Now onto some blatantly almost feels like false advertising. For the interior, you can see that how they have this set up is where you have the Fluffy section, which is entirely empty except where you have the trapdoor. That's the 8x16 module, if you can't tell. And the trapdoor will drop you down into the Devil's Snare, which, unlike the original set from 2001, which had this really fun play feature, this version just has 3 black vines that you can hope that when you pull the trapdoor, your figure will fall and get caught behind them, as opposed to the much more likely alternative that they just bounce off to the side. And then, while that part's underground, then you have the balcony, which, again, I guess is underground now? And that's just there with nothing in it. And then off to the side, you have the tower top, which has a potions room, which is a nice little reference to a scene from the book that ended up being cut from the movie, where the final challenge before the Mirror of Erised was a potions riddle. So that's a cool inclusion, and a nice repeat of that jar of leaves from the Chamber of Secrets. However, looking at this, you'll notice that that tower top is off to the side. It's not connected to a tower, it's just a random sand green cone. Because the way this is set up, there's no more room for it. And the great thing, though, is that if you set it up like a tower, then you won't be able to have the modules underneath, meaning that the way they have this set up on the front of the box, which is the way they intend you to display the set, the trapdoor doesn't lead to anything, because it's just on the ground. Meaning that there is no way to properly have this set to both use every piece properly for the display, and to have the main play feature work. Because, again, if you want the play feature to work, you have to have it set up like this, and then the tower's off to the side. The only way to fix this is if you get if you get one of the other sets, which you would then use to fill in the gap on the other. the gap that is currently filled by the balcony, and then you could build the tower on top of that. Just to repeat, in case you didn't hear me, the only way to get this set to work properly as a model is to buy at least one other set to fill in gaps so you can use all of the parts included in this set. That is not cool, LEGO. Again, I'm gonna keep saying it because it's such a gross thing. There is no way to have this set work properly and play properly using just what's included in this set. LEGO, or Leggoat, literally translates in Danish to play well, and yet this set doesn't. This set does not play well. You cannot play with it at all on its lonesome. That's really bad, LEGO. Oh, and also the harp is a cool side build, I guess. But yeah, really disappointed with the build in this one. It is not great. And again, like, even if the interior is broken, the exterior is also really bland and uninteresting. So just not a great effort on LEGO's part. And then to add insult to injury, the minifigures in the set are just pretty bad. You just get Harry, Ron, and Hermione, all in robes, all with their same heads and hair pieces from 2018. I mean, again, the robes are a nice thing, but they're the same exact prints that come in the Chamber of Secrets. There are no unique prints across these three figures. They really expected this set to sell purely on the inclusion of Fluffy, didn't they? Because, like, that and the golden figure we'll take a look at in a second are really the only special, unique things included in the set. Everything else is just, But, yeah, I mean, again, nice figures. At the very least, they are accurate. Not to the scene at the end of the movie with the Devil's Snare, but they are accurate to the scene earlier on when they first encounter Fluffy, thanks to Mrs. Norris. But, yeah, again, they're not bad figures, just boring and uninteresting. And, again, they really should have had some kind of new print for the figures, because they just are not a draw to the set in any way. But I guess something that is a draw to the set is the golden Hermione figure. She uses the exact same torso print as Harry, and I think she looks very good. Much like Harry, the face print is very similar to the one that appears on the standard figure, just with the smile made completely standard rather than being slightly lopsided. Other than that, it's essentially just a gold recolor of the modern Hermione figure, and I think it looks really nice. Comparing this to the 2001 set, I mean, the original is just set up so much better, where you have Fluffy on the top of the 8x16 section, and the trapdoor will lead you down into the Devil's Snare, which is a fun play feature that it can actually trap and, like, chomp at a minifigure. Not 100% accurate, but it's fun, and I much prefer it over just having a couple of black vines, not even green. And then the tower is also more sensible, because in the new one we have Devil's Snare that doesn't really work where it is. Then you have empty space and potions room. In the old one, you have a big staircase leading up to the second floor, which is also pretty much empty. So, yeah, again, I really think that this set would have been so much better if they'd set it up like the old one, where the 8x16 module just had a flat roof with a trapdoor for Fluffy, and the inside had Devil's Snare. And then on the tower, you would have a staircase at the bottom, and then the other two levels can honestly be kept the same in my opinion. But yeah, I hate to say it, but the 2001 set is better in my opinion. It might not look as pretty, although the new set doesn't exactly look very pretty even now, does it? But the 2001 set just makes more sense as a thing, and it plays better, and you can use it to its fullest potential without needing to fork over more money to other sets. As for comparing the two Fluffies, yeah, normally I prefer brick-built creatures to molded ones, but this one is just too chunky. Not to mention that while I like the new headpieces, the old ones you could actually open each of the mouths, which I think is a really important and good feature to have for Fluffy, and it's something you really should have had here rather than just the prints. So, yeah, I hate to say it, but the original Fluffy is better as well, so this set is inferior in pretty much every way to one that came out 20 years ago, at least in my opinion, and that's pretty sad. So if you haven't guessed it by this point, I'm not a huge fan of this set. I think it is my least favorite set of this wave, definitely, and, I mean, again, if you like this set, that's great. I'm glad you're able to find enjoyment in it, but me personally, it's pretty much a miss, and while I might get it at some point, and honestly probably will, it's definitely not a set I have any urgency to pick up. Moving on to the final Hogwarts expansion of the 20th anniversary line, we have set number 76395, the Hogwarts First Flying Lesson. This set includes 264 pieces, 4 minifigures, plus a statue, so 5 in total, and it retails for about $30 in the US, where it is a Kohl's exclusive. That price converts to about 28 Great British Pounds, 30 Euro, or 50 Australian dollars. The set includes 2 wizard cards, as well as the golden Professor Quirrell minifigure. Taking a look at everything included, you have this nice little facade of Hogwarts wall that is very well detailed with some banners, and with the little rock designs at the bottom and the lack of sand green roofs, this set could actually totally fit into a 2018 to 2020 Hogwarts setup with absolutely no modification, and again, no green roofs. So that's definitely a big plus for a lot of people who prefer the old style. So that's nice. And the set also includes several brooms, a little chest with some Quidditch implements, the figures, and a Remember-All that we'll take a look at later. Just getting a better look at the exterior, you can see that you have more of those large panel pieces that were used in the Fluffy set and the Polyjuice set, but those molded-in windows are actually flanked very nicely by the banners. I think that looks very good, and you also have a nice brick-built lantern as well. You'll also note that the set includes several trans-clear bars to pose your figures on. Much like the one included in the Chamber of Secrets, this includes one at the front that you can actually pose, and we'll see that in a minute, as well as, while it's not shown in this image, you also get one on each of the roof sections at the sides. So 3 in total, which is really amazing in my opinion, and I love that inclusion. Looking at the interior, the only picture of it has it when the set has already been mixed up with the different modules, and you can see that the center section with the door has no interior to speak of. The one section at the left, when you're looking at it from the front, just has a broom cupboard with a couple of brooms, and you could also put the Quidditch chest in there. And then up top, you have the trophy room with lots of little awards, complete with the shields in the cabinet, one of which is for James Potter. So that's a really nice thing. Nothing really inside of the set aside from that. That trophy case is definitely the focal point of the interior, and overall the set definitely is made more for the exterior. Pretty unique among these sets, since the rest of them are definitely very interior-focused. This set, much like the 2018 to 2020 sets, is definitely based more on looking good from the outside. So again, the set really feels a lot like one of those sets as opposed to one of the new ones, which is just interesting. And here you can see how that play feature works, where it's very simple, but you can just raise and lower that one bar to make it look like a figure is taking off, which is a really cool feature. What isn't really cool, though, is the setup for this module, which is legitimately pretty gross, where it's just a 4 by... I believe that is a 4 by 10 plate? Or maybe it's 4 by 8, but... Oh yeah, no, it is 4 by 10. But anyway, so you have that plate, and then up top you have another plate, but they're not even set in with each other. Like, first off, every other module in this whole system is 8 studs deep, so I don't know why this one's any different. Or at the very least, it could be 6 studs, maybe, because then it would be flush with the back of the others. But just 4 studs doesn't really work for me at all. And then just having the roof area also be 4 studs, and it's not even directly above it, it's 1 stud recessed. That just doesn't work for me, and... like, again, this looks good when it's connected up with everything else, but on its own, this center module is not great. And speaking of modules, here you can see them all separated out. We have the one pointless center module that can't connect with anything, the 2 8x8 modules at the sides, and the 2 roof pieces. Yeah, I really like this overall. Just again, that center does not work well on its own, but when you put it with everything else, it works. Now for the figures. From left to right, we have Neville Longbottom with Remember All, Draco Malfoy, Madam Hooch, and a statue. Neville has no new prints, using the same new robe design as well as his face that originated in the 2018 Harry Potter Minifigures Series 1. Earlier this year, it also popped up in the Herbology Hogwarts Moment set. Draco is using his same face since 2018, and the robes from Diagon Alley, making him the only figure out of every set releasing this summer to not be a new figure in any way, or even a new combination of parts. This is the exact same Draco figure that came in Diagon Alley last year. An entirely new figure, though, is Madam Hooch. She trades her old Widow's Peak hairpiece for a much more accurate, spiky look, as well as a new face print, the alternate side of which will have goggles, and a new torso print with some dark blue outfit. This is based on the outfit she wore during the flying lessons scene, of course, which is nice since every previous figure has been based on her referee outfit. As for the statue, it has no printing, just the Gandalf beard in gray and 2 swords. An important thing to note with the Remember All is that if you turn it around to the other side, it actually does not have the red cloud inside, which is really nice. So you can have it where it's normal, or you can have it where Neville's forgotten something. Funnily enough, in the movie, what he'd forgotten was his robes, though in this set he has them. So I guess in this set I don't know what he's forgotten. And then in the center you have the Quidditch chest, where you have a beater's bat, a quaffle, a golden snitch that you can't see it here, and then the most pathetic thing in any set, potentially ever, the bludgers. How'd LEGO do bludgers? Did they go back to using just the quaffle piece in black? Don't be silly. What they did is it's just 2 brown studs stacked on top of each other. That's a bludger. It's not even close to looking like a ball. It's not even close to being round. I mean, I guess it's a bit better than how in the 2018 Quidditch set they were just plain black single studs. Is 2 studs better than 1 stud in this case? I mean, it definitely is closer to the correct size, but it's also a lot less round because you have the indent in the center. I'm not sure which is worse, but they're both not too great. But yeah, that's my main issue with the set, though, literally, is bludgers are bad, but these figures are all really nice inclusions, and they're great to get. It would be a bit more exciting, all that said, if we hadn't just had the Moment set that made Neville and Draco both really easy to get, but eh. As for Golden Quirrell, I like the torso, but they made the face a smile, and while I get that since this is the anniversary, it doesn't really resemble the character as he appears in the films. In all honesty, the smile makes me think more of an alternate portrayal of Quirrell. But anyway, he does have the alternate face with Voldemort, After all, I imagine the whole reason they picked him to get a golden figure is because he is very important as the first ever LEGO minifigure with a double-sided head print. And here's the back. Credit to Panda Minifigs, who was able to get this figure in hand early, and yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. For one, they decided to print the entire head on a base of metallic gold, which just really, I think, was a poor decision, and it makes it so that most of the details don't even show up from some angles, including this one, which, like, he has all of the wrinkles and stuff, they just don't show up here. And then there's the fact that this face design was clearly meant for the slightly lopsided, like, 20-degree angle that the original figure had, so having it straight on here just doesn't really look angry like it should. I do like the torso, though, and the turban is a great recolor. Comparing this to the 2018 Quirrell, again, the torso is essentially exactly the same. The head, just, I feel as though they should have gone with, like, a frown here instead of a smile. I don't know, at the very least, this is nice because it is a fairly generic design, meaning that you could use this for a lot of different scenarios if you're not wanting to use it for Quirrell. And then the Voldy faces. Again, the old one printed it on tan, which worked really well. The new one prints it on metallic gold, which doesn't. The old one, which was lopsided, which worked really well. The new one is straight on, which doesn't. So yeah, definitely a better design on the older figure, the standard figure, for the Voldemort head. And the Quirrell. So the head is just overall better on the old figure, but it's still not bad on the new one or anything, or at least the front face isn't bad, it's just different. The alternate face, honestly, is kind of bad. Although maybe it'll look better in person, but just right now I'm not a huge fan of that. Comparing this to the old Flying Lesson set, and yeah, I'm gonna have to say it, this is a big upgrade. The old one came with 20 pieces, it was just a broom cart and a Remember-All. That was the entire set. I like the new Remember-All more because I like the fact that it can be swapped out. I do honestly wish that the new set had included a broom cart because that would have been a cute thing to have to reference back to the old Flying Lesson. Plus, the set definitely could have a few more pieces since it is only $264 for $30. You could have added in a bit more than that, so I know maybe there should have been, yeah, there probably should have been a broom cart, but I think it's still fine the way it is without it. And again, obviously the new set is much more than the old set in general. It's not even really fair to compare them, but just an interesting thing to look at, I guess. But yeah, so that is the Hogwarts First Flying Lesson. For me, it's definitely another day one buy, in addition to the Chamber of Secrets and the Polyjuice Potion Mistake. I think it is a really great looking set with some fantastic minifigures and some fun play features, and for $30, there really isn't much more you can ask for than that. Just great set, and a good fourth and currently final set to have for this new Hogwarts system. Our next set takes us away from Hogwarts Castle, but still in the general vicinity. We have set number 76388, the Hogsmeade Village Visit. This set includes 851 pieces, 7 minifigures, 4 chocolate frog cards, and it'll retail for about $80 in the United States. That's about 70 Great British Pounds, 70 Euro, and a staggering $140 Australian. This set captures the 2 most iconic buildings in Hogsmeade Village, those being Honeyduke's Candy Shop and the Three Broomsticks Tavern, and it is based on Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Taking a look at the set as a whole, I think that LEGO has done an absolutely fantastic job with both of these buildings. Starting with the 3 broomsticks at the left, I really like how all of the tapered roofs are done, and the little spires atop the window pillars, those are very nice. The signage at the front is a little disappointing. It's just a sticker, which I don't think looks fantastic. I think that maybe something brick-built using the paintbrush pieces could have worked a lot better, since in the past LEGO's used those to represent nanoscale broomsticks. I like the gold latticed windows, though I don't understand why some of the windows just have empty panes in them. I think they should have gone with lattice all around, but that's just a nitpick. Yeah, a very nice build, has a very homey vibe to it, but of the two buildings included, my favorite in the set is Honeyduke's. It's a little smaller in all directions, but I think it's just a little nicer. The color scheme of dark orange and green is not one you would expect to look good, but I think LEGO definitely pulled it off well. The bay windows at the front are very nice. I like all of the snow detailing on both of these buildings. The little window with the spire and the roof is well done, and I like how both buildings have two nicely done chimneys. And the set also includes a few little side builds to set the scene better, those being a wanted poster for Sirius Black, a lamppost, and a little bench. Looking inside of Honeyduke's, the bottom floor has a cash register. The floor is very nicely tiled off, which I love. And you have different candies for sale all around, including some cupcakes in the back, stickered shelves behind the register, some candies in a pink display case, and in the back of the room you can see some lollipops, as well as a glass display case that Dean is looking at. However, I think that the most notable piece of candy included in the set is that both Harry and Dean get a minifigure head printed with a jar of acid pops, which I will say that I wish they had given the print budget to something else, like maybe a box of every flavor beans. Acid pops aren't really iconic, but it is nice to get a new print at least, and we'll get a better look at that later on. Up top, you have the storeroom, which isn't entirely accurate. That should be in the basement, as it's where Harry ends up after he takes the secret passage from Hogwarts to get into the village, but I think having it above the shop is better than not having it at all, and obviously you couldn't actually have it in the basement because the set doesn't include that. That wouldn't really make sense logistically, so I'm glad to have it here. It's not a super complex space, but you have some boxes and buckets up there, and I think it looks nice. And up top, you actually have just a bit of extra space they had that's filled by a few bottles and studs. I really like that. They really used all of the space on this model that they possibly could, and I think it looks great. Moving over to the three broomsticks. At the bottom, you have the main tavern area with the bar, which is nicely finished, as well as a single table to sit at. You can notice some shrunken heads hanging over the door, as well as above the table, you actually have a portrait of Hengist of Woodcroft, who is the founder of Hogsmeade Village. What's interesting about that is that piece doesn't actually use his canonical design, but rather his original appearance from the Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets video game, where he appeared on a chocolate frog card. So, that's a fun fact for you. Up top, you have a sitting room where you can discuss all sorts of secret lore that you don't want Harry Potter to find out about. Sure hope he doesn't have an invisibility cloak or anything. But that's also nicely done, where you just have a couple of pictures on the walls, some holly above the fireplace, and a couple of cups in addition to an armchair. You can see that, unfortunately, the area at the very top, under the tapered roof, is completely empty. I think that they could have done something with attic space in there, similar to what we have with Honeyduke's. Even if it was just a little storage area, I think that having something up there would have been a very nice touch, but it's not a huge deal. For some different images, you can see here the sitting room from another angle, with some figures inside, and note how that armchair build is very similar to one that appeared last year in the Burrow set. Just there it was orange, and here it's in dark green. Down below, you can get a better look at that seating area with a table. In the back, it looks like you have some different portraits and items on the wall for Quidditch, and you can see that both Harry and Dean get mugs of butterbeer. That's a nice accessory, and I like how they've put a white stud at the top to represent foam. That's something that was actually missing from the ones that appeared in the minifigure series last year, so nice detail to include. Taking a look at the minifigures, from top to bottom, left to right, we have Mrs. Flume, Mr. Flume, Dean Thomas, Harry Potter, Madame Rosmerta, and Minerva McGonagall. Starting at the top left with the Flumes, I think that Mr. Flume is very well done, with a recolor of the beanie piece into purple, as well as a brand new face print and new torso print. And Mrs. Flume I don't like quite as much. She has a new color for that bun hairpiece, exclusive torso and leg printing, and a reuse of the Helga Hufflepuff face, which has already also appeared on Molly Weasley, so this is its third appearance on a Harry Potter character. Although I will say that I don't mind the reuse, because unlike Molly, Mrs. Flume is an extremely minor character, so I don't think she really warrants a new face print. Not to mention that this actually looks like the actress who portrayed her very briefly in The Prisoner of Azkaban. Mr. Flume, as I mentioned earlier, does get a new face print. This side has him with a smiling expression, the other side has his mouth puckered as if he just ate an acid pop. So that's nice, but again, he's such a minor character, it's weird that he got a new recolor and 2 new prints. I would have been fine with a reused head for someone as small as him. Same with Mrs. Flume, where she got brand new torso and leg printing, which I don't like because the colors are not really accurate. She shouldn't be in these purples and pinks. The arms and the detailing on the torso for the little cardigan, I think that should be in dark red, and the rest of the outfit should be in nougat. Arguably, the only part that maybe should be in purple is the little apron at the bottom, which is the only part on the minifigure that isn't in a pink or purple tone. Moving on to the students, Harry is essentially the same version that came in all of the 2019 Prisoner of Azkaban sets, just in those he had dark tan legs and here he has black legs. Kind of funny how for most of the movies they come up with all these different unique variants for Harry in almost every set, and yet all 4 Prisoner of Azkaban sets that have had Harry use the exact same outfit. I mean, I don't mind. In fact, considering the ending of Azkaban, this outfit is one that it's good to have a lot of duplicates of, since it means that kids will probably be able to get 2 versions of it. But still. And you can also see him holding the jar of acid pops. Dean, to his left, gets a new face print that's double-sided, both being smiles, as well as what I believe is a new torso print, though I imagine it'll pop up elsewhere if it hasn't already. I will say that while I do like getting a new figure of Dean, he definitely wouldn't be my first choice for a Hogsmeade set. Especially since we've already had a version of him, and that version was already based on The Prisoner of Azkaban. If I could have picked one student, I would have much rather gotten a new figure of Katie Bell, since we've never had her before, and she's not a character that we're very likely to get a figure of, since outside of Hogsmeade, she's just one of the extras on the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Again, still a nice figure, just would have preferred another one. Down at the bottom, you can get a better look at the Sirius Black Wanted poster, using a design that is very similar to the one that appeared in the 2018 Hogwarts Express set, which, interestingly, still does not use the same hairpiece as the minifigure released in 2019. I hope that at some point they release a minifigure with this Mad-Eye Moody hairpiece, so that the Wanted posters finally work, and also because that hairpiece would just work a lot better for Sirius, in my opinion. To the right of that, we have Madame Rosmerta, who gets a new recolor for the Dana Barrett hairpiece that originated in the Ghostbusters Firehouse, so that's a nice recolor to have, and a very accurate torso print. Her face is a reuse of Mantis's from the MCU, which it was also reused on Bellatrix last year in the Burrow, and again, even though it's really awkward that both of these sets, though Molly and Bellatrix were in the same set, and now we have Mrs. Flume and Madame Rosmerta in the same set, and those two pairs of figures have the same face prints, but I don't mind it here because, again, minor character, and more importantly, this face print actually really works and looks like the actress. So I like both of the face print reuses in this set. I just retroactively dislike the figures from the Burrow even more, if that's possible. So yeah, I think a very good figure for her. And then last but not least, in fact, of the 6, she might be my favorite, is the new McGonagall figure. This is the first time we've ever gotten her without the hat, so we have a new recolor of that bun hairpiece, which, side note, I think that this style of bun hairpiece would have worked better for Mrs. Flume than the one they chose, but, guess they just wanted variety. She has the new face print that first appeared in the Hogwarts Moments set earlier this year, and I think it's a great design for McGonagall and is a perfect likeness to actress Maggie Smith. And then the torso and legs are just very well done and just beautiful with the sand green little brooch. It's just a fantastic figure in my opinion. Yeah. Of course, the last figure is our golden figure, and in this case it is Golden Ron, who, I'll be honest, is probably my least favorite golden figure. Now, I love that hairpiece. It's the Luke Skywalker hairpiece, which, of course, was also used for young Ron, in pearl gold, and that's great, and honestly, I'm curious to get this figure just because I think that that hair color might actually work better for Luke Skywalker than the light tan and dark tan they've been swapping between. But Ron gets the same torso design as Harry and Hermione, but then his face print does not really look like Rupert Grint at all to me. There's just no character to it. The eyes are wrong. I think you needed some kind of lid or lash detailing up top. Just having them be normalized just doesn't look right to me. As well as having the smile be straight. I get that with all of these they wanted the faces to be symmetrical, but I think that with Ron you really do need the lopsided smile. And just comparing him to the actual figure, you can really see the difference, how these look nothing alike, really. The mouth doesn't give off the right look. The eyes, like, at the very least, they could have given him the little eyelid detailing up top. I think that just that alone could have helped, but I honestly do think that they should have made an exception, just given him the lopsided mouth, and essentially just translate the minifigure face over to the golden version, since I think the normal Ron face is a great likeness and probably the best Ron Weasley face they've ever done. Again, that's not a huge detail, just I really would have preferred to have it like that. And then, for the comparison, you can see that while they've never done a 3 broomstick set before, there was a past LEGO Honeydukes, which was included with the Shrieking Shack in 2004, and comparing the two, yeah, there isn't really much competition. The old one was very inaccurate, so the new one definitely gets a lot of points in that department. I will say that the old one did do a better job with the lollipops. There they are printed on paddle pieces, whereas in the new one they're just the new stud with bar piece with a tile attached on the front, which looks more awkward, but that's really the only place where I think you could argue that the old set was better. This is just a massive improvement, which makes a lot of sense because the Shrieking Shack, this was kind of just a little side build they included. Overall, I really like this set. I think that for $80, it is a really good deal. You get 2 fantastic and iconic buildings, 6 great minifigures, plus an alright golden figure. Yeah, I really like the set. And just, I feel as though an important comparison to make is thinking about this set in comparison to Diagon Alley, where that set was $400, a massive expensive set, and included so many different buildings, but overall, in my opinion, a lot of them did feel like filler, and also you have the fact that, I don't know, I feel as though just the modular design, it kind of failed to capture the vibe of Diagon Alley, in my opinion. This set just includes the 2 most iconic buildings, a nice slew of characters, and I think that this perfectly gets across that nice, comfy vibe of Hogsmeade. So this is a really great set that I think is a perfect translation of the source material, maybe aside from Mrs. Flume's outfit color, but a fantastic set and one that I am very excited to get my hands on when it releases. Moving on to what is the final anniversary set that's coming out in this wave, we have the Hogwarts Wizard Chess, set number 76392. It includes 876 pieces, 4 minifigures, plus a whole bunch of chess pieces, and it'll cost about $60 in the US, that's about 65 Great British Pounds, 70 Euro, and $110 Australian. And this is based on the climactic scene from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, where they have to play across a giant chessboard in order to reach the stone. And you can see the set's pretty much what you think it would be. It's a buildable chessboard. They've done these before. I like this one enough. I like the torches around the outside, but it's just a chessboard. I will say that a really unfortunate part is that unlike most previous ones, which use jumpers, here the board is completely tiled off, which means that hopefully some of these pieces aren't top-heavy, or else that'll make it very frustrating to play. But yeah, really not much else for the build. It's just that, and then all of the pieces and figures. So looking at those figures, we have from left to right, Hermione Granger, Ron Weasley, and Harry Potter, standing in front of the pieces they play in the game, those being a rook for Hermione, a knight for Ron, and a bishop for Harry. Looking at the minifigs in front, they all get exclusive torso prints for this set, and that's it. Hermione's, I think, is pretty accurate to the scene. Even if the lighting makes it appear more blue than green in the film, I think this is a very nice torso. Ron's I really like. I'm honestly surprised they made a new print. I was fully expecting them to just reuse the Harry torso and the Whomping Willow and Privet Drive sets, so good to have a more accurate design here. And I think it looks really nice. I do think Ron maybe should have gotten a new face print for this set, considering that this is, like, his big scene. I probably would have gone with a determined look for when he's playing chess, as well as a second face for when he's unconscious. And maybe that one would be a little dark. Maybe determined, and then a different scared expression than one we normally get. And then we have Harry, who has his sweater, complete with a little tear in it, which I like. I think that's a really nice print. And then again, with the face. Harry, he had a cut on his face in this scene. With that, I kind of get why they wouldn't want to have that, since LEGO doesn't really do blood, but, I don't know, maybe just the face that they put in Diagon Alley, where he has all the soot on his face. Maybe that one would have looked better. I don't know, for me, mainly, the one who needed a new face was Ron. That I'm legitimately disappointed by. Harry, I don't really mind. And then the pieces we'll get a better look at here, where you can see that from left to right, going by the top, we have the king, queen, bishop, knight, rook, and pawn, and those are in reverse order on the bottom for the black group. We'll be looking at the white when I talk about these, since I think those just it's easier to make out the details on them. I think the king is nicely done, considering the parts LEGO currently has at their disposal for helmets. I think that maybe one of the Knight's Kingdom 2 visors would have looked better than this Kingdom's helmet, but it's a good enough look, and I like getting the Lord of the Rings broadsword piece in white. Obviously, you get both of those pieces in black on the other side. Then you have the Queen, who is my least favorite, unfortunately, because she's the most notable one in the film, but I really don't think just having a round plate on top of the head really pulls it off. I think that ideally she would have the kingdom's helmet, and the king would have a design with a fold-up visor. Maybe the more classic knight helmet would have worked well, as well. I don't know, I think there were better options for the king, and what they did for the king, they should have done for the queen, but But then all of the other pieces I do really like. I think that the bishop is a great design, using the Indiana Jones whip piece in white and black, but again, just in general, a lot of these pieces already existed in black, so getting them in white is more exciting, even if the black ones are more usable. These are just cool recolors. Then you have the knight, who have just a little rider with a hobbit sword, and they can just be pulled off if you want to have Ron ride the horse. Although, unfortunately, since it is just one stud, he'll be hanging off the side, which isn't the best look. Then you have the rooks, which are probably my favorite of the 5 more major pieces. I like the shield, using the Nexo shield. I think that looks nice, as well as just the design of the tower. I just really like these guys. But then my favorite piece, though, does have to be the pawns. They do not use a knight helmet. Those are actually the miner hats from Lego City in white and black, both of which are new to my knowledge in those colors. They get the 2 swords, and overall I think these are just a great translation of how they appear in the movie. Overall, I really do like all of these pieces, just the queen really does bring it down, unfortunately, but everything else is great, and, I mean, this set is an absolutely fantastic parts pack for Castle fans, because you're getting 8 of those miner hats in each color, which you could use for helmets, like they are here. Then you're getting, I believe, 6 each of the Knight Guard helmets that are used on the Bishop, Rook, and Knight. You're getting 6 of those in each color. You're getting 2 of those. Well, no, you're getting 1 each of those helmets used for the king, so those aren't that exciting. Same with the swords. And speaking of swords, you are getting an absolutely asinine amount of those little hobbit swords in both colors, because you are getting 16 just from the knights, plus from the rooks and bishop, 20 total in each color, if my count's correct. So that's a really fantastic set of parts. But moving away from those, our golden figure is Golden Snape, and, I think he looks good. He's using the new 2021 Moments design, which Lego probably did, just they didn't have to do golden leg printing. But, I like the hairpiece, I like the torso. I think the face looks a little off. Again, this is like Ron, where this design was very much designed for a more cartoony, lopsided look, where he has the comically raised eyebrow. So I think just putting that and just having it be straight and symmetrical, I don't know if that really works. I feel as though for just neutral Snape expressions, the head print they did in 2010 was a lot better, so I wish they'd gone a bit away from the cartoony look and gone a bit more towards that. I don't know. And comparing him to the Moments figure, you can really see what I mean with that, where just, like, these proportions I think work really well for that one, but I don't think they translate very well here. Especially the mouth, where he has something really funky going on with his lips. You can also see how they did change the printing on the torso just slightly, moving more wrinkles toward the bottom to leave the top open for having the sparkles. I like that. And comparing this to the old Wizard's chess, I mean, it's not really much competition. That's just a little extra segment in a set that already has more going on. It's just a 3x3 board. You get just the queen is the only piece, although, to be fair, with that comparison, I think that the queen is the point of comparison, since I really don't think either are that accurate at all, though I think the old one honestly gets across what it's supposed to be better. So, I mean, maybe that's the better queen, but, I mean, definitely, obviously, overall, this is the much better chess set as a whole. That was more just a little extra area for play in the old set. So overall, the Hogwarts Wizard chess is a very nice set. I'm excited to get it, but it is definitely rather gimmicky, and, I mean, it's a game of chess, and if you don't want a Lego chessboard, there really isn't anything else here. Like, I don't think the minifigures are worth spending $60 if you don't want to have this as a playable chessboard, so as such, I don't really like that they included an anniversary figure in the set, because as we're about to see in a second, there are 2 other sets in the wave that are also very gimmicky, but with those, I guess purely since they aren't minifig scale, LEGO didn't classify them as anniversary sets and didn't include collectible golden figures. So I really think that LEGO should have just not included Snape in the set and included him elsewhere, maybe in a polybag or in the future in another set that we're getting this year. and just not, because now if you want to collect all the figures, you're going to have to buy the set even if you don't want it. So while I like the set, overall that is... But yeah, it's a good set for what it is. Just if you don't like what it is, there is absolutely nothing here for you, in my opinion, outside of a lot of recolored Hobbit swords. Moving on to the most surprising set of this wave, and one that has gotten a lot of discussion. It is set number 76393, Harry Potter and Hermione Granger. The set includes 1,673 pieces, no minifigures, just these two brick-built maxifigures, and that's the term, I came up with it, it's trademarked, and it costs about $120 in the US, that's 120 Great British Pounds, 130 Euro, and 200 Australian dollars. I should also mention that this set, as well as the chess set that we just took a look at, in the US, they are both Target exclusives. As you can see, this set's entire build is just these two massive brick-built minifigure versions of Harry and Hermione, both with their wands. I think that these are very well done, and I'm very excited for this set, because I've always wanted LEGO to do a set like this, where it's just brick-built minifigures at a massive scale. They actually did one back in 2000, but that's very outdated and also kind of expensive, so I can't get that set, but this, I think, is a great deal, where for $60 each, these are apparently around 10 inches tall apiece, and I just think they look great. You can see that the faces implement a brand new, very large, curved tile piece with a print on it. Harry also gets another smaller printed piece with his scar, and then they both have fantastically brick-built hair pieces. Those look amazing, and so much like the minifigure versions. Hermione in particular. Harry's, I think, like, it's good, but Hermione's is just absolutely fantastic. The torsos have prints as well, though the stripe is brick-built. The print is just for the collar. I really like that. I like how the print does not go all the way up. There is a gray tile layer on top, because on the actual minifigure, the print does not go to the edge of the piece, so that's good. The arm builds are nice. You can see that Harry has a cloth robe, interestingly, which we'll get into in a minute, but the hands are nicely done, and they can hold the wands well. For a major point of inaccuracy compared to the normal figures, you can see that while those have short legs, these have full-size minifigure legs, which I do not mind at all, because I think that for the sake of having these large action figures, having no leg posability would have been really lame, especially since it looks like these are the first two characters to be done in this style. And I could definitely see LEGO wanting to do this with more characters in the future, so starting off with figures that don't have posable legs would have been a bad move. Plus, you can see that here, Hermione actually has some gray on her legs to represent her socks. After all, since in the movies she only wears a skirt, it doesn't go down all the way, so having her socks showing makes sense. Again, that's a detail I would really like to see on the actual minifigure in some capacity, since I feel as though minifigure Hermione really needs a skirt, and that goes for both the uniform as well as some of her casual outfits, such as the outfit in the chess set, where she should have a gray skirt over white legs. LEGO just went with gray legs, which isn't a great look, but, I mean, again, it's not something they've been doing, so it's not something I really expect, but it is nice to see it here. Here you can see how they pose, which is exactly how you'd expect, as well as a better look at both from the side, as well as that they can hold the wands, which is just, they have a little 2x2 stud interface, which can just connect into the hands. Very simple, but it works. But yeah, just looking at Hermione's hair from the side, it's just so detailed and nicely done. I love that. Of these two, Hermione definitely is my favorite, though Harry is also very well done. And taking a look at that from the back, the stripe does continue all the way around. That does include around the sides, which is not fully accurate, but I'm indifferent on that detail, I guess, since I don't like it because it's not accurate. but I don't hate it because it certainly doesn't look bad. I like how the legs are sloped off at the back to actually give the correct shape of minifigure legs, though there are no big open stud holes. But considering that that would have been difficult to do for no real payoff, I understand why they're not here, and I don't mind their omission. Just looking at those hairstyles from the back, again, like, Harry is nice, but Hermione absolutely steals the show here. There's just so many layers, so many different slopes and curves. It's such a fantastic build, and easily the highlight of the set in terms of the pure build experience, in my opinion. Just by looking at it, I mean. I obviously haven't built the set, it's not out yet, but, like, it looks like it'll be a fantastic experience, I should say. Here you can see their wands, which are very similar brick builds, which I think look great. Harry's should be dark brown, but here it's a combination of reddish brown and black. I don't mind, since, again, I think that having the color variation actually works well. It's more accurate to how it appears in the film. Also, you can see that they have slightly different builds toward the handle of the wand, where Harry's has more domes with a BB-8 body at the end, while Hermione's actually uses the R5 headpiece, which is more of a just a curved all-around slope, and then the pumpkin piece in dark tan, just to create a bit more variation. So that's nice. Yeah, good builds overall. But comparing Harry to his minifigure from this lineup, as well as there was also a similar design in 2018, my main issue with him is that he just has a cloth robe, whereas the minifigure has it printed onto the design, and I think that having a brick-built robe design just built into the torso would have looked better, both because it would be more accurate, and also because the cloth piece they include isn't very detailed. Like, there's no hood, there's no inner trim, so I mean, I don't know. I wish that it wouldn't have been too hard, really. You would have just needed to have a different print for the 1x6x5 brick, since you need the robe coming up a bit around the collar. But then just looking at it at the bottom, you could, because the torso is 12 studs wide, you could have the 4 studs in the center, continue with the sweater, and then just build the robes on the outside. The only real point of contention I can see is the little Gryffindor patch on the robes. The badge, I think that probably would have had to stick out somewhat. Just have a Nexo shield attached on with a stud, which maybe wouldn't have been a perfect look, but I think it would have looked nice and better than what we have here. Again, I don't inherently dislike what they've done here. I just would have preferred if they'd gone the more accurate and more detailed route. But then for a direct size comparison, you can see that these are around twice the height of the midi-figs they've been putting out, like Grop, and obviously much larger than a minifigure, and also at the end, just for fun, I included micro figures and nano figures. You can see how this absolutely towers over all of them. And also, technically, this is another 20th anniversary set with a remake, even though they're not calling it 20th anniversary, because back in 2001, when LEGO first started Harry Potter, they actually did a special giveaway with Toys R Us stores where you could win this ugly fellow at the right. Yeah, he's not a great look. I mean, for 2001, he's not bad, I suppose. Yeah, this is definitely a massive upgrade, and I don't think you can find anyone who would disagree there. But overall, I think that this set is really great. It's just such a good idea to have these massive minifigure, maxifigure action figures. Just big, posable LEGO action figures that are massive. Like, kids love big action figures, and if you're not a kid, these would look fantastic on display. Especially with the Hedwig from last year, or if you're lucky enough, the Hedwig from 2018. There was a Target store giveaway, much like the Harry we just looked at. And as well as displaying them with the set we'll be taking a look at next. But I really love these. I'm very excited to get them. I probably won't get them on day one just because there are so many other sets, so I think I'll prioritize the 5 main minifigure scale sets before I take a look into this. But I do definitely plan on getting this, and it is a fantastic set, one that looks great, and one that I am very excited to eventually get, build up, and then probably put on my shelf. Great set, though. And then our final set we'll be taking a look at is set number 76394, Fox, Dumbledore's Phoenix. The set includes 597 pieces, one minifigure, plus one little phoenix, and it retails for about $40 in the US, where it will be a Target exclusive, much like the last two. It's about 35 Great British pounds, 40 euro, and 70 Australian dollars. The set is very similar in style to the Hedwig released last year. In fact, much of the build has been lifted directly from it. And that's mainly in the wings, where this has the exact same function as Hedwig, and, again, a lot of those wings are the exact same build, but they've changed up a lot in areas like the talons, the head, the tail, and, of course, the stand, which, while Hedwig's was very much brown and meant to look wooden, Fox has a round gold stand, using what I believe are some new golden curved slopes on the sides, which are nice, as well as a perch. I think it looks quite nice. You can see that the head is a very nice design, rather small, but I think the size is accurate, and overall it's just a much nicer build than Hedwig's, which had a very blocky head. Fox's head is a very accurate shape, and it is very well articulated, where the neck can swivel, as well as the head can swivel at the neck, and the head is also on a ball joint. So you have a lot of different posability to make Fox look whichever way you like, which is great. Looking at Fox from a top-down view, you can see that, again, the wings are very similar to Hedwig's, but overall Fox is less round and more angular, especially with the tail at the back, mainly, where Hedwig had a lot of very round and poofy feathers. Fox has these thin, straight ones. You can also see from the side that you have the crank, which I don't like as much because you have the Technic is much more visible. It was built in a lot better on Hedwig. But again, you can just see that the build is similar, but it differs in some of the feather detailings toward the ends, as well as the head and the talons. For minifigures, you get an exclusive Dumbledore with specialized torso and legs. The hair, head, and beard are the same ones from the Chamber of Secrets, but I like these designs. I would have preferred if he'd gotten the dress piece like he's had in pretty much every appearance since 2019, or really even since the 2018 minifigure series, but I think this outfit looks nice even with normal legs. And Fox is the same version from Collectible Minifigures Series 2 last year. And I would have liked a flying version, like how we got a flying Hedwig in last year's sets, but Fox still looks really good here, and it is nice to have this piece available in a more widely available way, without having to fill up a blind bag. And comparing this to Hedwig, it's not really a comparison like the others, because this isn't a remake, it's just another one in the same style, but you can really see how similar the builds are for the wings. Overall, I do like Fox more than Hedwig. I think that the head is a much better build. I like the talons more as well. Yeah, I mean, Hedwig, I think, has a somewhat nicer stand, but overall, for the main build, Fox is an improvement, which is good. But, yeah, very similar designs. And again, looking at them from the top, you can really see how much of Fox is lifted from Hedwig with the wings and the mechanism. Overall, this is a really nice set, and for $40, it's a great deal, but, I mean, as we've just seen, my main thing is that it is very similar to Hedwig, so that if you already have that set, I don't know if there's a ton of reason to pick this up, because a lot of the build is going to be identical. Like, again, they changed a lot of the outer details, but the main core of the build is the same style, the same idea, the same design, so I am going to pick this up at some point, because it is very nice, but it is toward the bottom of my priorities list, because it is so similar to a set that I already own, and already have on display currently, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, good set, but somewhat irrelevant if you have its predecessor. So, overall, for my final thoughts on these sets, my least favorite is the Hogwarts Fluffy Encounter. The Fluffy build is very poorly thought out. It has a nice idea for a gimmick, but it doesn't work well in execution, and the build itself is very poor by this theme's standards, although by some other themes it would be average. The interior is bad. You can't even use the entire set if you don't have another set to act as a buffer, because of how the trapdoor is done. Just rather disappointed with what's here, and the lackluster minifigure selection doesn't save it. Well, I'm sure I will end up getting the set, just so that I'm not missing part of this new Hogwarts expansion. It's not a high priority for me. Next, as we just talked about, is Fawkes Dumbledore's Phoenix, which is a great set, but it's very similar to Hedwig, and there isn't really much else to say on that. It comes with a great exclusive Dumbledore figure, but the build, while I think it looks nicer than Hedwig's, is similar enough that I don't really currently feel the need to immediately run out and get the set. Next is the Hogwarts Wizard's Chess, which is a very nice set, but it's just a brick-built chessboard, and I think that the rest of these sets are more exciting than a brick-built chessboard. And that's really all I have to say on that front. It is a good set. I like the exclusive figures, but if you don't want a chessboard, this set is definitely not for you, and even if you are like me and you do want a Lego chessboard, it's not at the top of my list. Next up is the Hogsmeade Village Visit, a fantastic set for $80. I think the set is wonderful. Both builds are great. The minifigure selection is also fantastic and surprisingly well detailed, with lots of new prints, considering how some of the characters are very obscure. A great set, and while it's not my favorite, again, if this is your favorite, I very much understand why. And this is one that I am very excited to pick up when it releases on June 1st. Moving into the really good Hogwarts expansions, we have the Hogwarts First Flying Lesson, and I think this is just a really solid little playset for $30. The figures are all great, the interior is fine, but the exterior just looks fantastic in my opinion, and combine that with the fact that you can actually pose all of your figures flying, which is a really simple but smart way of doing things, and I think the set is great, and definitely one of the best LEGO Harry Potter playsets of recent years. Though it is slightly beaten out by the Hogwarts Polyjuice Potion mistake. This set has all exclusive minifigures, which are things fans of this lineup have been wanting for a very long time, so it's great to finally get them. The build is quite simple, but it is a very cute and accurate design. And just with how the set combines in so well with the Chamber of Secrets, if you're getting that set, this set is an absolute necessity, and one that is a very good necessity, because it's just a fantastic set. Then next up, we have the Hogwarts Chamber of Secrets, which is the Hogwarts set I have dreamed about and wanted ever since I was a little kid. I adore this set. The minifigure selection is incredible, with 11 figures, most of them being very well detailed and nice. You get a brand new brick-built basilisk, and then the build itself. From the exterior, I think it looks quite nice, but the interior is where this one really shines. Where you have all of those just very homey details, those fun play areas with Lockhart's classroom and his office. The Great Hall is super well done, and then the Chamber of Secrets at the bottom is just fantastic. This is such a great set, and for $130, that's a bit of a steep price, but it is so worth it for what's included here, and I am very excited to get this set as soon as possible and build it up as soon as I get it. And then probably spend some time playing with it, because this is just such a great and fantastic playset, such a great display piece, and such an amazing tribute to 20 years of LEGO Harry Potter. But of all of these sets, while that is amazing, the set that I think warrants the most mention has to be the Harry Potter and Hermione Granger maxifigures, because while I've wanted that Hogwarts since I was a little kid, something else I've always wanted LEGO to do since I was a kid was this, making massive minifigure action figures of my favorite iconic LEGO minifigures, and this is exactly what they've done here. Well, the set may be missing Ron Weasley, unfortunately, and while maybe the builds aren't entirely accurate to the minifigures, I think that just what LEGO's done here is fantastic. They look so fun to play with, they're so detailed and so accurate to what the minifigures actually look like. I mean, there isn't a whole lot to say about these, but I love these. Again, unfortunately, I will not be able to get these on release day, because I am prioritizing the Hogwarts sets and Hogsmeade, but I am super excited to get this set at some point, and it is just such a beautiful and fantastic set, and I so hope that they make more of these in the future. Both more Harry Potter ones, as well as more in general. Like, I would love to get a Batman in this style, or to get a Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader pairing. Like, those, like, just thinking about all the different things they could do with this style, I'm very excited for the future of this system. And very excited for all of these sets. And that's really all I have to say about those sets. So, I love them, they're great, with the possible exception of Fluffy, but even that set is fine, honestly, but I really don't have anything else to say. So this is Retro Brick Reviews. Continuing with the video, because while it is unfortunate that I've had to delay this video quite a bit due to a few technical difficulties, primarily stemming from the fact that I got a new PC between this analysis video and the last one I put out last year. A definite advantage of this is that now I can show off a few more sets that LEGO have revealed since my original recording. Starting with set number 40495, Brickheadz, Harry, Hermione, Ron, and Hagrid. As you can see, this is a 4-pack of Brickheadz, and while we've gotten all 4 of these characters before in Brickheadz form, the figures themselves are entirely new. Hagrid is similar to the version that came out as a gift with purchase in 2018, but he does have a few differences, primarily the print on his torso, as well as his coat being switched to a dark orange color instead of reddish-brown, and his hair is overall much more rounded and bushy than before, a definite improvement in my eyes. As for the trio, they've all gone down from their 2018 versions. Now they have been downscaled to the 3x3 Brickhead style that we've seen on characters like Hedwig. So I think they look really nice, and obviously now they scale much better with Hagrid than the older versions did. Taking a better look at Hagrid in comparison to his previous version, you can really see the upgrades they've made to the beard and hair in particular, where they just look so much fluffier and rounder and just much better. By comparison, the old Hagrid, while all the showing studs maybe did help to make his hair look more tangled, I really don't think it looks that much like Rubeus Hagrid. I will say that I do like the 3D belt buckle on the old one. The new one has no buckle, so that is a downgrade, but overall, I think that having the printed shirt is more important than the buckle, and this is an improvement overall. The rest of the trio are all very similar, so we'll look at them all together. You can see that they all have a very similar body design. The only difference on one is that Hermione has a skirt rather than trousers. They were all holding their wands, and as you can see, unlike the previous Harry Potter Brickheadz, these ones all have the wand pieces from the minifigures, rather than using the classic wand piece, which was just a brown lightsaber blade. I don't think these scale as well with Brickheadz in the chibi style, but they are more detailed. As for the figures themselves, you can see that Ron, going from left to right, Ron the head is actually quite similar to the 2018 version because he does have a very simple bowl-cut hairstyle. Harry has some very tousled hair, as well as a couple of unique prints, those being a 1x3 tile with his scar, and new 2x2 tiles with his glasses, which I have seen some people say look bad. Personally, I think they have a lot of character, and I think they look a lot better than the 2018 version, which for the glasses just used a single thick molded piece that didn't really work in my eyes, and didn't really look like glasses, and they looked more like goggles. And then you have Hermione, who is definitely the least detailed of the three. Her hair has pretty much been reduced entirely to cheese slopes, but I think she looks really cute still. And looking at them from the back, you can see how their cloaks are done. I will say that since these are 20th anniversary figures, I think it would have been nice if we could have gotten prints on the back of the cloaks to have stars like the original 2001 figures. But since you would need a couple of different prints for the two different sizes of curved slope, I get why that's not the case. You can also see that Ron and Hermione are both very simple from the back with completely flat tops to their heads, while Harry does have a lot more detail, befitting the main character and a definite improvement over the 2018 set when Harry was probably the least detailed and definitely the least accurate. Specifically, looking at Harry in direct comparison to the 2018 version, the new one just both has so much character, in part because the glasses look better, and also, he just looks more like Harry Potter. The old one with those very short, awkward bangs, the entirely rounded head top with no texture, and just everything. It didn't really look at all like Harry to me. This new one does get across the look. Like, that hairpiece looks like a Brickheadsified version of the minifigure hairpiece that they use currently. And, yeah, definitely an improvement in my eyes. I love the new Harry Brickhead. Probably my favorite of the four in this set. Hermione, in comparison to her previous version, is more of a definite downgrade. The old one was just so detailed and did such a good job at replicating Emma Watson's hairstyle in the first few movies. This figure, it's just cheese slopes. That said, I do still like the new Hermione. I think she is very cute. She gives off the vibes of young Hermione, if that makes sense. Again, definitely less accurate, but not a bad figure by any means. And then our last figure is Ron, who looks very similar, as I stated prior, but I think of the ones in this set, he is probably the weakest, because I don't like how his hair is staggered on the sides. I liked how on the old one it was entirely smooth, and then also, obviously, the flat top to the head also is a downgrade from having the rounded top. I mean, both look like bowl cuts, but the old one looks more bowl to the cut. And that's this Brickhead set. Nothing too complex. There is a second Brickhead set that we're going to take a look at in a second, and I see that one being more popular than this one, purely because this one deals in characters that have all been released before. But I still really like them. I have all of the previous Harry Potter Brickheads, and I still plan on picking this one up because I think Hagrid is a big improvement over the previous version, and while on the other three, it's not as definite, aside from Harry, at the very least, you do have to admit that they are very unique in comparison to the previous version. So I think that they are worthwhile additions to your Brickheadz collection. But obviously, if you only care about getting unique characters and don't care for variants, you don't have any need for these. But moving on to our next set, it is set number 40496, Voldemort, Nagini, and Bellatrix. Again, price and piece counter unknown, and unlike the previous Brickhead set, this one includes 3 characters who have never been done in the style before. And I definitely see this one being more popular as a result, and also because I think that these characters, or 2 of them in particular, are more interesting than the other set. Just very appealing designs, but starting with what I would say the weakest figure in the set, even though it's still quite nice, we have Lord Voldemort. And people have been wanting a Voldemort Brickhead since 2018. I never really did because he's just a white head in dark robes. I thought he would look very bland, and when they announced this figure, I was not expecting much, but I have to say, I'm pleasantly surprised. While he still isn't fantastically done, I think they did do a good enough job on him. I like the print for his nostrils. Insert joke about Voldemort having no nose and yet being the only minifigure with a nose here. I like the new print on his torso as well. The robes are actually somewhat textured, using 1x4 tiles on the front. Those are nice. I will say that for the sake of consistency with the older Brickheads, it is unfortunate that you can see his robe sleeve, you can see his hand, the 1x2 modified plate in white that is showing on both sides. Normally I wouldn't complain about that, but all of the 2018 Brickheads actually used 1x1 bracket pieces to cover up that piece from the sides to make the robe sleeves appear more covering. So I wish they would have done something like that here. Looking at him from the back, again, pretty simple, but they did do a nice design to try and capture what the new dress piece looks like. You know, the piece that LEGO uses for all robed characters. So I like that design. Again, nothing fantastic or anything, but it's pretty much a lot more than you would expect from a Brickheadz Voldemort, so I'm glad with the result. A figure that I was not expecting to get in Brickheadz form, and when it was announced, I had no idea what to expect from it, is Nagini, Voldemort's Serpent. And I have to say, I am very impressed with this, because it looks like a very well-built, coiled-up serpent, while simultaneously being perfectly within the Brickheadz style. You can see that there is one unique print just on the front for the neck. And, I mean, yeah, it gets across that snake head shape. I don't know how else to describe it. It looks fantastic. It is a great melding of what you would like. It looks exactly like a coiled snake. It's a really smart build. And looking at it from the backside, you can see that, of course, it's not really coiled, it's just 2 layers, but it looks exactly like what it should look like, is the point. And I think it's fantastically done. Probably the smartest Brickheadz of all of these new Harry Potter Brickheadz releases, but not the best, because the best has to be Bellatrix Lestrange. In fact, she might be one of the best Brickheadz LEGO's ever produced. This figure looks fantastic. And, of course, the big draw is that hair, because much like the minifigure Bellatrix, the Brickheadz has absolutely crazy hair, but here, the build itself is not too complex, primarily just being a bunch of 2x2 round plates, but boy if it doesn't look fantastic. It perfectly gets across that very curly, massive hair that she has. And you can also see in the top right where you have her lighter streak through her hair. That's a nice detail to have that the minifigure does lack. And of course, the main hair color here, though, is dark brown as opposed to the black of the minifig. I think the dark brown works much better here because it brings out the contrast against the body, which I think is very important. You can see that her eyes are on dark tan plates to appear sunken in, and for her body, you do get a single new print, as well as some nice cheese slope building to give her the neckline of her dress. That's very well done, and honestly looks like what you'd see on a custom Brickheadz. From the back, you just have more of that continuing hair detail, which looks nice. I will say that maybe it is a little off how instead of getting the build for the dress piece like Voldemort does, she just has the standard square body built all the way down with feet poking out, but it's not necessarily a bad look. And then you can see how they just use the 1x2 grate tile to give the detail of her sort of netted short sleeves. So yeah, a really nice Brickhead set. It is my favorite of the 2 we're getting for Harry Potter this year, and I see this being the more popular of them. There's not much else to say, aside from the fact that it is kind of funny to me how, of course, before we knew all about what LEGO's doing for the anniversary, everyone thought that all of these Harry Potter sets for 2021 were going to be based on the Deathly Hallows. And yet, it turns out that of all the sets, none of them were, except this, because you have Voldemort in his Deathly Hallows Part 2 design, you have Nagini. I think it's safe to say that this is the first Deathly Hallows set to release in the new LEGO Harry Potter lineup. But it isn't necessarily the last, because next up we have the LEGO Harry Potter Wizarding minifigure accessory set. Again, piece count is unknown, price is unknown, but presumably $15. And yeah, this is the new accessory set. I know a lot of people thought it would be Quidditch, but this makes more sense, because back last year, the reason we got the Students Pack was primarily because LEGO had released 2 very large Hogwarts expansions with only a single uniformed student between the 2 of them. And so it made sense to have a bunch of extra students and their uniforms on the market. With this set, this goes along with how last year we got a large Diagon Alley set that was not very well populated with witches and wizards. So presumably if LEGO's going to do a Quidditch pack, they'll do it when there is a Quidditch set on the market. But anyway, this is another set that is somewhat based on Deathly Hallows, but also has some Philosopher's Stone influence. Where you have 4 figures and a very small build. Going from right to left, we'll start with our main man, Harry Potter, who you can see is in his older appearance in school robes, and what's very interesting about those robes is that is not the print that we've seen in the new sets for the closed-up robes that we have on Harry and Hermione in the Fluffy set, Ginny and Colin Creevey in the Chamber of Secrets, and Neville in the Flying Lesson. This print is similar, but it's actually the closed robe print that was exclusive until now to Diagon Alley. So that's very interesting to get in the set. I don't know why LEGO chose this over the other prints. I mean, it doesn't necessarily look better or worse. I just think it's interesting that that's an exclusive print to the Diagon Alley set that is now here for really no reason. But moving up above Harry, we have, hey, it's another print from Diagon Alley. It's the torso of Ollivander, here being used for the torso of Daedalus Diggle, who is a somewhat minor character who appears in the first movie and throughout the books, and he's not super accurate. Yeah, if you can't tell, most of the figures in the set are just taking existing minifig parts and mashing them together semi-haphazardly to create new characters. In this case, Diggle gets Ollivander's torso, old Ben Kenobi's face, and then a standard top hat and black legs, which isn't really accurate. Like, the torso does work, it's the right color, it's close enough to what his outfit looked like, but his top hat should be matching it, so it should also be in dark red. And then his face, he did not have a beard. He had long sideburns, sure, but no beard. I think that maybe the head print they did last year in the Christmas Carol Charles Dickens tribute set for Scrooge would have worked better for Diggle. I don't know, just this face isn't really accurate and doesn't really look like the character. Like, if he didn't have the large top hat, you really wouldn't be able to tell at all who this is supposed to be, and even then, the top hat's not the right color. So, not the greatest take on the character, but it's also not terrible. Moving to his left, we have Doris Crockford, and, okay, the torso's a good choice. That torso, which is another rare piece, it's Vicky Vale's from the 1989 Batmobile, that does look a lot like the outfit she was wearing in the movie, and she also gets the only new minifigure part in the set with that newly printed dress piece. That's nice. But then her face is Petunia Dursley's, and she has the same hat-hair combo as Professor Sinistra. When she wasn't wearing that kind of hat, she has, like, gray hair, and she's much older than this. So I think that for the face print, they really should have gone with maybe the Trolley Witch face, or since it's not in use for her anymore, maybe McGonagall's old face from 2018, since now McGonagall has a new, better, more accurate print. And then for the hair, I'm not sure what piece I would have gone with, but I think that I would have gone with a hair piece instead of the hat-hair combo, and if you were to go with the combo, I would have gone with McGonagall's colors, not Sinistra's. Our last figure is Rufus Scrimgeour, who uses a relatively common by now suit jacket print, as well as the face of Wooher, the bartender of the Mos Eisley Cantina. That face print did come in the 2018 Cantina, but as of right now, when I'm recording this, the only other set it appears in is the Master Builder Series $350 direct-to-consumer Cantina. So that's a good face print. The front face they're showing here I don't think is a great likeness. I think that the alternate shouting look would actually be a really good print for him, so smart reuse on his part, where one face legitimately will look great, and the other is still fine. As for the build, it is just a simple table. You have the two new printed jars from throughout these sets, the Potions print and the Acid Pops. You get two cauldrons, although maybe the bottom one is supposed to be a pot. And then you just have a couple of boxes with the owl sitting on top, and that's a nice owl to get, since the only other Harry Potter sets to include that so far in the modern line have been Privet Drive, The Burrow, and Diagon Alley. So this will definitely be a nice, cheap way to stock up on generic owls. And then you can also see in the center, you have a new printed tile, which is of the Dumbledore's Army sign-up list? Okay. I mean, that's a nice print to get, but it doesn't really fit here, and in general, that's kind of the vibe I get from the set. Harry is an older version, but not specifically from any scene or film. Rufus Scrimgeour is definitely based on the Deathly Hallows Part 1, since it's the only film he appears in. The two figures in the back are based on the first movie, but not very accurate. Then you get a build, which is very generic-y, and then you get this tile print from the Order of the Phoenix. So you have a minimum of 3 films represented in this set. It's just a strange choice on LEGO's part to mash all of this into one accessory set. It's not a bad set. I do plan on picking it up when it releases. Again, it's just odd. But that's the last set that is currently available to see and look at from LEGO officially. But there is one more thing to look at, that being that since my main recording, it has been found out what all of the different Chocolate Frog cards are that will be releasing throughout these sets. And those cards are, from left to right, top to bottom, Godric Gryffindor, Rowena Ravenclaw, Helga Hufflepuff, Salazar Slytherin, Serafina Pickery, Gilderoy Lockhart, Nicholas Flamel, Newt Scamander, Albus Dumbledore, Bertie Bott, Minerva McGonagall, Olympe Maxime, a silver card for Albus Dumbledore, Garrick Ollivander, Severus Snape, and Jocunda Skies. Looking at all these cards, you will notice that most of them have a very standard background, with the exception of the 4 founders having a golden design, and the second Dumbledore having a silver design, which I like because that's actually a nice reference to how with the real-life Chocolate Frog cards that are available from Universal Studios, there is actually a second limited edition silver Dumbledore card that is only available at Universal Studios Japan. So that's a neat thing to include. Looking at all of these, I like the designs they've chosen. They're not all entirely accurate to the minifigures, but they really typically aren't when LEGO does artwork of figures in sets. There usually are discrepancies, so I don't really mind. Some of these are definitely of characters and variants I would like to get, like Madame Pickery from the first Fantastic Beasts. Nicholas Flamel would be great to get. Yeah. Also, Jocunda Skies, of all of them, isn't really a character I want. I just think it's more of an odd choice, because the other 15 are very much notable Harry Potter characters. Well, I suppose 14 are. Then you have Bertie Bott, who... He created Bertie Bott's Every Flavor Beans. He's important in my book. But then Miss Skies. It's kind of an odd choice to have on there at the end. While it is cool to see all of the cards, what is unfortunate is that we've also learned more about their distribution, in that they are entirely random. And that's not just between different sets, which was expected and what they said, but unfortunately it's even within sets, where within the same set, you can get duplicates where you get multiple copies of one card in the same set. And in my opinion, that's unacceptable. Like, especially considering how expensive some of these sets are. Like, imagine spending $130 on the Chamber of Secrets, and some of your cards are duplicates of other ones that come in the same set. That is not good, LEGO. And I know that that's also how they do it with stuff like video with the beat bits, but the difference is that video, those sets range from $5 to $20 maximum for the first wave. $20 is the cheapest any of these sets go, and that set comes with two cards, and they could be two of the same even. So, yeah, it's a good idea, and I like the choices of characters, and the prints look very nice, but the distribution is horrible, to where I really am not excited to get these anymore, unfortunately, because the odds of getting a full set, because reminder, across all of the anniversary sets, there are only 19 potential slots to get cards, meaning that already you would have had to have gotten insanely lucky to get at 16 in different cards out of 19, and now we know that you can get duplicates within the same set, so it is going to be virtually impossible to get a full set of cards by buying all 6 sets. Yeah, just awful. That is very anti-consumer in my opinion. Not cool, LEGO. But yeah, hate to end off on a sour note, but that's really all there is to say about these sets. Despite that unfortunate fact about those chocolate frogs, I am still very excited to pick up these sets when they release, now in only a couple weeks. Yeah, this video is very late, and I apologize for that, but hey, if you've stuck around for this long, you clearly don't mind, and also you clearly need a hobby. But I kid. You were probably watching this in the background anyway, but anyway, I have been going on for a truly inane amount of time, so really between the two of us, I'm the one who needs a hobby, but I'm rambling. I am very excited to get these sets. My favorites are, as I said earlier, the Chamber of Secrets, the bathroom, and the flying lesson, as well as the buildable Harry and Hermione Maxifigs. Yeah. I'm just going to cut this off now before I go on for any longer, because this video is already the length of an average Harry Potter movie. So, thank you all so much for watching this video and for sticking around. And while this video was very late, another advantage of that was that now I will be able to get more videos out soon since I've got everything sorted out. So, expect a few more analysis videos on some more recently revealed sets coming soon. But just thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. But for right now, this is Retro Brick Reviews, signing off.